We acknowledge and respect the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we are meeting upon here today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and the relationships of Aboriginal peoples to country. We also pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia present here. So welcome everyone to this afternoon's session, ClickView for School Texts. We've got Hayden Lewis who will be presenting this session, hopefully able to show you some of the things you can do from an admin side of things in ClickView, and hopefully we can also answer questions if you have questions. I just want to put it out there from the beginning though, that some people might have questions which I can't personally answer. So if that is the case, I will record all those questions and get back to people. And I think with that, Hayden, I will stop sharing my screen and hand over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Abigail. I see a lot of very familiar names on the participants list there. So g'day guys, nice to see you all. I see Vicky and Sarai there from Clare. I'm heading up to Clare this weekend for the food festival, whatever's going on. So maybe I'll see you there, or you guys might avoid that being locals. So anyway, good to see some familiar faces. I will share my screen. And look, I don't want to sort of hang around some of this stuff too long. I understand that this session will be very different from the one we held yesterday for teachers, but I know that there will be some non-ClickView customers logging in. There's a lot of existing ClickView customers. Some of this very baseline stuff may help ground us a little bit in why the department and ClickView have obviously done this enterprise deal. I'll go into some admin details. You may or may not, sort of know about those when we do a bit of a demo, and then between Abigail and I, we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have around, what the enterprise agreement looks like and what that means for your school as a new sort of ClickView customer or as a pre-existing one. I assume my screen's come up okay there, Abigail? Brilliant. Yeah, cool. I've managed to get the Teams app working today, so it's all slightly better than it was yesterday using the browser. So the agenda for today is very briefly just a what is ClickView and a few benefits of ClickView. I'll put some slides together. Abigail is going to absolutely hate me by the end of this series of webinars because she's going to see the same slide deck in some form or another about 58 times. We'll talk a little bit about the partnership, hop into the product, go through some of the admin panel, go through some questions, next steps, and also some frequently asked questions, because I know a lot of schools have actually been, ringing the department, emailing the department, also giving me a buzz, trying to find out some answers. So we'll spend a fair bit of time on that this afternoon as well. So very top level look at what ClickView is. We are the leading video platform for schools in Australia, and we're basically here to engage the world's learners with ClickView. So video resources, movies, TV shows, documentaries, all those sorts of goodies you're going to find on the platform, along with some really valuable, resources and things that will help take things to the next level. High quality videos, that goes without saying. We not only create our own videos in our production team in Victoria and also in Sydney, animations, live action, the whole kit and caboodle, but we also get great TV and documentary programs and things from content providers around the world, and we're looking for things with the correct duration, learning outcomes aligned to the Australian curriculum, high engagement levels, and then videos that are recent, relevant, and also culturally responsive. The content's going to cover everything from R to 12, so all the way up you'll get good content, and it's also going to cover not just your core skills, but also things like health and well-being, careers education, teacher professional development, emotional well-being, community, things like that as well. So not only a lot of the stuff in that sort of core educational space, your basic English, maths, geography, some things that extend a little bit beyond that as well. The variety of content I've already touched on very briefly, but you have the content that we produce in-house, and then you've also got the content that we get from other providers, and that includes animations, documentaries, movies, live action, everything you can sort of think of there. We integrate our platform with a variety of learning management systems and library systems. So if you are a new ClickView user, you may not know this, but I know things like obviously Frog, Civica's going out to department schools at the moment and has been for the last couple of years. I know a lot of schools use that. Dame app I know is really, really popular. You've got things like Sector, you've got Oliver as a library management system. You've got all these different platforms, right? We integrate with the vast majority of them. So if you are using one of those platforms and don't know how ClickView can integrate with that, well, reach out to us and I'll give you some emails afterwards that you can do that through, and we'll see if the platform, our video platform, integrates with your platforms, makes it really easy for your teachers and students to access seamlessly. Now, with all that basic stuff out the way, why has the Department of Education and ClickView partnered in this enterprise agreement? Well, essentially it allows us to have better outcomes for more schools, and also consistency in our approach to working with schools across the South Australian market. So we have been working with South Australian schools for around 20 years, and I suppose I've been part of that for 4 or 5 years now myself. And our partnership with the department is going, I think someone's opening a packet of chocolate or something in the background there.
Oh, that's me. Hang on.
No, you're right. Oh, good. Was it a packet of chocolate? Did I get that right? It's like the Mix 102.3.
Nah, keys.
Keys. Geez. Okay. Well, you gave it away. I got the $10,000 next time I call up now. So there you go. Sorry. So our partnership with the department is going to basically enable us to not only deliver ClickView to more schools in a more consistent manner, but will also allow us to work with the department, i.e. we'll be able to deliver training like we are today, and specific resources that kind of align with the department's teaching and learning goals and things like that. So really excited to do that. Hopefully some combined events and things. Obviously, still a lot of discussions to happen there, but I think some academies and things where I go out to regional hubs and work with schools and along with the department are going to be really, really exciting. And then also there's potentially some enterprise level features. For example, just spitballing ideas. I know a lot of dioceses and we work with the Department of Education over in Victoria. They have a system where each school can have its own school library where they manage their own resources in-house, but also there's a shared library at the top level of that peak body agreement where your top level people can sort of send in resources that can be deferred to all schools. So there's lots of different things we can do and lots of exciting tools that we have at our disposal to make sure your experience with ClickView is a fantastic one if you are just starting, or you're an existing customer. It's only going to get better from here. So very excited to work with the department. How do users log in? I've copied this wonderful GIF across. Essentially, you sign into EdPass, you go to your My Apps and click the ClickView little button there, and then you sign in with your @schools email, and that should get you into ClickView, whether you are a student or a teacher. Now, if you are a previous customer, you may have manual accounts set up, or you may have your own single sign-on instance. You probably have actually received some communications around that. The idea is, and look, our goal is to hopefully get everyone across to one single sign-on system that is led by the department. And the reason for that is it enables us to, if say a teacher leaves your school or a teacher comes to your school from another department site, they can carry over all of their playlists, content and things like that. I know a lot of previous customers are probably thinking, how many times have I emailed Hayden so he can delete a user from an old school? That won't have to be done anymore. So that's going to simplify that whole process and make sure teachers come in with all of their goodies along with them, rather than having to restart those from scratch. And again, it just allows us to have consistency in terms of when students are logging in, they're in the right year level. When teachers log in, they're at the right site, and all these different bits and pieces. So the simple thing is, if you are a new customer, you go through this process and you log in and there should be no issues. If you are an existing customer, You've got your own sort of sign-in process. There may be some things we need to do, but please reach out to us and we can make sure that happens. And if you've got any questions about that, we'll probably be able to go into a little bit more detail shortly. This may or may not interest some of you. I'm just going to move the camera out the way. How does the login process work? Well, from a user perspective, they log into ClickView and then they access ClickView. But in the back end, essentially, they go in, the domain, the @schools domain is essentially recognized. There's all this SAML related stuff that sort of happens in the back end. There's a division used that enables, multiple sectors to be set up, so you different sites, and then it basically works out whether you're a staff member or a student, and then puts you in the right year level at its simplest form. Again, there's a lot of detail in there that I don't really think is necessary to dive into, but if you do want to have a look, we'll be sending out the slide deck after, so you can have a bit of a browse on how that works. So if you do have any questions about the technical nature, please reach out and we can obviously delve into that a little bit more. But in a nutshell, that's how it works there. So I'm just going to dive into the admin side of things, which shouldn't take too long. But Abigail, before I do that, have there been any questions, anything that's sort of popped up that isn't related to stuff we're going to go into shortly?
No, there's one question about TRT access, but hopefully Craig's is okay if we defer that to a little later in the presentation.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we do have a slide. Well, Abigail's been kind enough to put some slides together. I was going to put some slides together and Abigail's done it all for me because she's an absolute legend. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit later on. So hopefully that'll answer some of your questions. Awesome. Well, with that being said, I'm going to enter ClickView here. And I'm not going to touch on the user perspective at all today. I'm just going to touch on the administrator side of things. So to access your admin settings, I suppose you could call them, you're going to click on your name in the top right, and then you're going to click on settings. Now, if you are a new customer, you may need to reach out and make sure your account has admin access and let us know you're going to be the sort of admin person at your school. Because if you go to settings and you've basically only got profile and email and password, rather than having all of these options here, it just means you're not set up as an administrator. So if that's the case, just give us a yell and we can make sure that's all set up for you. But essentially, as a user or as an admin user at your site, you'll have access to all of these details here. And it's probably worth me prefacing this a little bit because I have had the question asked. When we use Department of Education single sign-on, you still have a unique school account. So you still have control over a number of these features that are unique to your school. It's just that user management is done from the peak body. So you can still look after things like your own school library. You can still look after things like your own user ratings and various bits and pieces. So please don't think we're sort of throwing everyone into one big account and making it a free-for-all. You still have a lot of control over what your ClickView does and how your ClickView runs. So essentially, key buttons along this pathway here. Staff and students and year group access are probably big ones. I'm just going to pop in here. I won't have too many staff users. Obviously, I've got Testman there and Testy Testerson, a couple of good users. But you'll go in here, and if your staff member logs into ClickView, they'll be provided with an account automatically in this section. And you can essentially go in and double check all the settings and bits and pieces, but you won't necessarily need to play around with anything in here. You won't need to delete any users because if they move to another site and log in at that site, their account will be moved across automatically. So the actual management side of things in here, not super necessary. We are going to talk about TRTs in a little bit. There may be the odd instance where you need to set up a manual account. And by that, I mean an account that isn't linked to single sign-on, but is linked to an email and can help a particular user login. I know in some cases, schools have created parent accounts for parents to log in to watch school recitals and things like that. So there's a couple of unique use cases for that. If you do find you need to do it, there's an add a new staff button in the top right-hand corner. You go to manually create an account, hit continue, fill out the details, and that email address will receive an email saying set up a password essentially. So very, very simple to be able to set up a manual account. If you do need to, it's rare the cases where you do. Single sign-on should hopefully do the majority of it. So you shouldn't need to go in here too much, but you can if you need to. So that's the staff side of things. The student side of things, same thing. You can go in here, have a look at your students, manage anything you need to, and your students, when they sign in, will automatically be assigned an account and a year level. Now, this question comes up year after year. Say we get, I don't know, 3 weeks into the term, someone will inevitably ask me, hey, I can see all my year 7s haven't turned into year 8s yet. Why is that? Do I have to go in and manually change them all over? You don't. Single sign-on will do it automatically. It's just a matter of that student signing in for the first time that year. So ClickView can pick up the information and then change them over to the new year level. So if you're finding there's some students who maybe aren't in their new year level 1 or 2 weeks into term, it's probably just that they haven't had the opportunity to sign in for the new year, would be my guess. But if there are any issues with that, please obviously reach out. But that is probably the big question that comes up most often. Again, if for whatever reason you need to make a manual student account, you can do that in the top right, pressing the Add New Students button, but single sign-on should cover the rest. Year group access will be another big one. Now, if you are a existing customer, you've probably already got this set up, I'm sure. If you're a new customer, we do set up the user manager with some defaults. So this will all be set up for you automatically. You won't need to go in and double check that your year 1 and 2 students have access to R films or anything like that. That's all safely done. So rest assured that's the case. However, if you do need to go in here and manage anything, you can go in and you can change the ratings. Now, essentially what this means is a student can't go into ClickView and search for Gladiator off the bat. If it's outside their year group rating, that will protect students from that. And also there are certain parts of the platform, like the exchange up here, that students can't access without a teacher sharing that film or video clip with them first. So there's a lot of safety structures in place. However, if you do know that a student is in year 11 and watching a film, please go in here, make sure the ratings are all set up and ready to go for them. And that is the ratings in a nutshell. Now, most of these other buttons along here, workspace storage may come in handy. If you are finding that your teachers are running out of workspace, which is essentially where they save their TV programs or programs that they have uploaded into ClickView themselves, you have total control over whether your students and your teachers will run out of space or not within their workspace. So yeah, you can update that as need be. Quite often I find that sort of the 100 gig mark is a lot of video content, but you might have the odd teacher who's recording themselves doing a lot of lessons and things like that. So you may need to move that around to unlimited. You also have the ability to own your own school library. And whilst I won't go into that in too much detail today, that's probably a more advanced feature that, again, some of our existing customers may know what I'm talking about. There is the opportunity to move your videos into a shared library for all of your teachers to access as well. So lots of different things there. But if you do need to manage your workspace storage, it's in settings.
Hayden, we just got a question in the chat. Sure. So Sam has said, we discovered students in other or ungraded did not get automatically added and we needed to get another group added for them. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Okay, so was that using
Sam, feel free to come off mute and explain if needed. So that's John Perry Secondary School.
John Perry. I'm trying to remember if John Perry are through EdPass or through their own single sign-on.
Okay, so Sam's clarified with students that aren't assigned a year level like special needs kids. As far as I'm aware, if your students are in a special class, they should still get classes assigned. So Sam, I will check that. I'll write it down and check that, and I'll get back to you to double check. Because it should. Okay. If you could send me a chat message with the job number, then I can follow up on that. That would be helpful, and make sure we get some answers there.
Right.
So
I think
Sam's logged a job, so
Yeah, cool.
I will follow that.
Yeah, thanks, Abigail. I think the other one, correct me if I'm wrong, might be receptions 1s and 2s don't have their own email initially, Abigail?
Yes,
Yeah.
so unless it's logged or the school creates them manually,
Yes.
students don't get them until they're in year 2.
In year 2, yeah. So that may be another one where your receptions and 1s may not be able to log in straight away, but have a chat to the department to make sure they're set up and in the correct group, and then ClickView should pick up the slack from behind the scenes there. Hopefully that answers that. On this side of things, honestly, your libraries, content updates, and video access, they're just links to other things that you can access anyway. So I tend to not look at that. SSO, because you don't have your own private instance of SSO, probably won't need to be used. I don't think you'll actually see anything on your end. I can't show you mine because mine's a manual account. But RSS may come up if you are looking to use some of those integrations. It may ask for an RSS code. So for instance, if I've got Oliver as my library management system, and then I'm setting up ClickView videos to appear in searches within Oliver, I need to copy and paste this RSS code into the field in Oliver, and then it does all the stuff in the background and sorts it out. So ClickView things will appear when you do a search in Oliver. So RSS code is there. Local cache may or may not come in handy. If you go to this button here, you can see there's a learn more button and download. Now, I understand that the department rolled, I think it was a year or 2 ago that Swift was finalised. 12 months ago, roughly, whatever it was. Yeah, some time ago. So I know that internet problems generally are less prevalent than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago when I was sort of starting out at ClickView, and that conversation happened a lot. However, if you are finding that you've got a million students on ClickView every day and teachers doing this and that, great problem to have. Local cache may come in handy. What that enables us to do is on a small server, I think we need 100 gigs of space. On a small server at your school, we can install a smart caching device that will essentially, when a video is watched, put it in the cache, and so any other users also watching that video will pull from the video locally rather than the internet. And then as that video doesn't get watched over a period of 1 or 2 weeks, it will go out the other side of the cache and new videos will come in. So there is the opportunity, if you are finding that your internet's struggling a little bit, to use local cache. And I know a lot of regional schools still do use that functionality, depending on what day of the week it is and how the internet's faring. So opportunity is there if you're finding that things are buffering in various bits and pieces. And then at the bottom here, you have your analytics. Now, obviously, I'm not watching a heap of videos in my own ClickView account, apart from when I'm doing PDs and things. But you as an end user are able to go in here, see who's logged in, see which videos are being watched, see if they're students or teachers, whatever it is, and use that to really get a sense of how ClickView is being utilised at your school. Obviously, we'll share in a little bit more detail, some more training plans and things like that as we work them out. But I live at Marion, if you don't know already. I'm an Adelaide boy, and I come out to schools individually and do trainings and things as well. So quite often I'll look at the analytics of a school with a key user there, whether that's yourself or someone in the teaching and learning side of things. We'll look at where gaps are in terms of faculties and things like that. And that can be an opportunity for either you internally to promote to those faculties or me to come out and work really closely with them and do some very good training. So opportunities there in the analytics as well. And from a IT sort of user managing ClickView, that's the majority of the stuff there. There is the library editor side of things, which I won't delve into today, because that's, again, a little bit more advanced. And I'm sure the people who are using that know it very, very well. So maybe a session we can do down the line once everyone's logged in and really settled into ClickView. Are there any questions about that admin portal or anything like that before I move back to the PowerPoint?
We've had no other questions in the chat so far, but please
Beautiful.
Feel free to come off mute if you've got something, or type it in and I can read it out as well.
Awesome. Well, just to sort of finish up my side of things, we don't have Jamie in here today. Obviously, you've got myself, and as I said, we'll share out this slide deck, so you've got all the relevant contact details. But I'm your man on the ground. I can do pretty basic IT stuff. So, like, someone can't log in, I can have a bit of a look at that and pass it on, and various little bits and pieces. So, if you do have any questions on that side of thing, please reach out. And I'm the sort of go-to for training and pedagogy. I'll try not to use the P word too much, but pedagogical side of video learning and how to use ClickView really, really effectively. So that's me, and I can definitely be your go-between, between ClickView and our internal teams in our head office in Sydney. Jamie, who's not here today, is the head of product support, and he's obviously taking a leading role in ensuring that any issues with single sign-on or login processes and domain migrations for those schools who are potentially using a different domain are all happening really, really effectively. So we've got Jamie's contact details there as well. It says it there. He's got over 27 years experience in the field. So a very experienced man with a lot of know-how and gets stuff done really, really well. So those are your sort of two go-to people on the ClickView side of things. Next steps. As I said, I didn't really show you how to use ClickView because I don't think you're going to be logging in as much of a day-to-day user compared to your staff, but do have a login and a play and see what's available. You might be teaching the odd class of internet safety and bits and pieces, who knows? So there's lots of great content on there that may help support you on that side of things. And then if you are new and you're not sure, please do highlight any of your library learning management systems to either myself or that support@clickview.com.au email there, and we'll make sure that we can hook you up. So all your systems talk to ClickView, ClickView talks to all of your systems, and your staff basically have a really smooth and seamless accessing smooth accessing style with ClickView and can really dive in and have a bit of a play. So do reach out with any of those. And now to the great slides that Abigail's sort of put together. So we'll just go through some common questions and hopefully they'll answer some bits and bobs for you. But Abigail, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, sure. So we put out some communication earlier to some schools that were current users. So we've had some questions that have come back from them. So I'm going to try and answer those common questions first, and then hopefully if people have further questions, myself or Hayden will be able to answer these, or if we can't, then we can write them down and get back to you with some answers. Hayden, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, sure.
So one of the questions that has come up quite a bit is around billing. So those schools that have already paid for ClickView this year, don't stress, you won't be billed twice. The amount that you paid will be credited to the new EA and deducted from the res adjustment, which will happen in March. So billing will now happen in March through a res adjustment, and it's $8 per student based on the February census details. If you are in the credit, that will either be rolled over for the next year or it will be refunded depending on the amount that you're owed back. There is a question, or there was a question on SATEC around schools that are combined schools not needing access for all their whole cohort to ClickView. I'm currently unable to answer that because the person that can answer that is on leave. So please note that we haven't disregarded that question. I'm just not able to answer that at present. If you do have questions around individual school circumstances and billing and things like this, I've put the email address that you can contact in there, so education.ict@inquiries@sa.gov.au. But I will send out these slides after the session today anyway, so you'll be able to have that contact detail. So I know there's a few primary schools on this call as well. So what happens if you are a primary school? Well, our current deal doesn't include primary schools as such. However, you can access that $8 per student deal still, but you'll be billed through ClickView rather than have that res adjustment happen in March. I think, Hayden, I think that's correct.
Yeah, look, essentially, if you're a current ClickView primary customer, obviously, yeah, your deal will continue to run as normal. You'll have continual renewals, and I suppose you probably know already that we'll have those discussions as those dates come up. So if you do have any questions about your renewal as a primary school, please give me a buzz and we can have a chat.
Perfect. Okay. Were there any questions around billing before I move on to the next slide? Again, if you've got questions about a particular site or your particular school, please feel free to send us an email. Another thing that's come up is around site admin, and I think Hayden's explained that with the rollover onto the EA, there's no changes to individual schools' admin rights. Those schools that have used private SSOs in the past, some of you I can see I've already been in contact that all your current setup will be migrated over. So nothing, you won't lose anything, and nothing will change in terms of your ability to curate your own school libraries at a school level. Content that you put in your school library won't be accessible to other schools. So there's no issues around things that need to stay in your school being accessed by other sites. Another question that's come up is around schools that have co-located units, for example, disability units, being able to access the school library, so not being treated as an individual unit. And we can accommodate this. You just need to let us know by email, again, that same email address, if this applies to your school and you need several codes joined into the same school to access the same library. Okay, and then the big one, Hayden, is TRT access. So I know that some people are still not fully on board, I guess, with the 3 options that we have put forward. These are the ones that we can see at the moment. If anyone has any other possible solutions, again, please email us and we can explore those options. The first option I've got on there is the preferred option, and that's to add the teacher role to the TRT so that they're given the opportunity to select the ClickView instance when they sign in using the EdPass for your school. Now, the reason why this is preferred is that the teacher then has one login and can access the different schools depending on which school they're TRTing at, because they can just select the right school in EdPass and then they'll be put into the right ClickView instance of that school. One issue that's been raised with this is that when you add teachers to your school, they get included in DLs. There is in IDM a box you can untick so that those TRTs aren't included in DLs for your site. I know that this means that this is a global thing, so they won't be included in DLs for any sites that they're included in. However, as I said, this is our preferred option because it allows the TRT to move from site to site and access the different ClickViews with the SSO single sign-on free EdPass according to which site they're currently working in. Hayden, can you move to the next slide, please? Thanks.
So,
so the second option is to set up a generic login, as in a contractor account, for ClickView access. And again, I know there's negatives to this in that you're setting up a generic account, and generic accounts, it's hard to track individuals' usage with. However, this is an option that you could explore. That way, again, all TRTs, if they're given this generic logging account, will be able to access ClickView in that school's instance. They have to use a different login for each school they visit, though. And then the third option is, as Hayden went through a little bit earlier, is manually adding an account to your school. So you can manually add an email address to your ClickView instance. Just note that you can only have the email address in once. So if as a TRT I give you my @schools email address, and you add me into your instance of ClickView, when I go to another site, they can't add my @schools email address. I'd have to give them a different email address, so a personal email address or an @gov email address if they've got an SA.gov email address. So that would mean that they'd need to remember which email address they've given each site in order to access ClickView. With option 3, there is a slightly different option in that you could set up a generic account and use option 3. I noticed when I've been looking at some of the data that this appears to be a way that some schools in the past might have given TRTs access. So for instance, I can just create a Gmail account that's ClickView Glenhunger, for example. I can open that account in Gmail to make sure I can verify the login for ClickView, and then I don't need to touch that email account ever again. But I can set up that generic login just for my TRTs on ClickView. So I would, okay, their main site exclude. Yes, so yes, it will. So we just got a question from Craig in the chat.
Yeah.
And yes, it is true around the DL option. As I said, it overrides it for everyone, every site that the TRTs are associated to. So we do recognise that that is a downside, but there's not, that is a detractor to that option. So they're the 3 options we have. And as I said, if your school is currently using a different method for TRT access, perhaps you can email us and share how you're using TRT access at the moment, and we can explore whether we can work something out that's similar to that. Okay, so I think that's all from me.
That's all from me as well. Thanks for if anyone doesn't know, Abigail's just probably still coming off a bout of COVID, so she's done really well to speak for the last 20 minutes without stuttering or going for a drink of water. So thanks for that, Abigail. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, I suppose, are there any questions about anything we've gone through today? Obviously, we've done our best to give you as many answers as possible. There's probably still a few things that are going to need to shake out and you know, come to fruition. But yeah, anything at all today, please, yeah, throw it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got another question from Amanda from Galway Secondary. Amanda, is your school currently using ClickView? And
yes, we.
Yep.
Yeah.
And are
yes,
you currently using it through SSO?
My understanding is yes. I'm the business manager, I'm not IT.
Yep. So
yep.
if that's the case, you won't notice any difference in terms of the cost involved. Our agreement started in March, so if you've already paid, that's fine. We've got all those details, and we're in March next year, you'll either get a refund or a credit, depending on whether
Beautiful. That bit
unit.
I got.
Yep.
It's just that, so we just log into ClickView the same way that we've been doing it, not through EdPass. That's what you're saying.
So hang on. Let
You
me
could,
double
I think.
check whether I've got you on my list of private SSOs. Give me 1 second.
You can still log in through the ClickView website even if you are an EdPass user. We're obviously just keen to, for consistency's sake,
Galway
Edpass
Secondary College. As far as I'm aware, Amanda, you are currently using your at-schools SSO, and if people aren't accessing it through EdPass, it would just be that they aren't accessing it through EdPass, so it shouldn't be any change.
So
Let me follow up on that. If you does the tile appear for you?
the tile's there, but it wouldn't let me log on.
Okay, let me follow that up. That might be something
Yeah,
in our
it could be a
EdPass
question.
team that hasn't quite been flicked over yet. So I will follow that up. Our EdPass person is on leave until Monday, Amanda, so it probably won't be until early next week.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank
the
you.
name of your I'm being terrible. I work with too many schools. The name of your librarian's escaping me. What? Sorry, who was that again?
Kathy Smith.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to. I reckon we had some issues where they were adding accounts in manually when we were trying to do it through a single sign-on, which was causing a few hiccups. But yeah, Abigail, we'll chat afterwards. Let's not derail the meeting, but yeah, we'll chat afterwards and make sure that that's that's all sorted.
Thank you.
No stress at all. Thanks, Amanda. Were there any other questions from anyone else? No, happy days.
Okay,
I'll
so
stop sharing.
yep, and I will send out a link to the recording of this as well as the slides, so that you have those contact details. If you do have further questions, you can email Hayden or at the apps inquiries email address. Just know it will probably be tomorrow when you receive that follow-up email. Other than that, thank you very much everyone for joining us. I hope you managed to pick up some tips or some knowledge that you didn't have prior to this meeting. And thank you, Hayden, for running the webinar for us.
Thank you, Abigail, for stepping in and helping out with some of those things as well. Appreciate it. And yeah, as Abigail said, you've got a variety of different avenues you can go to. So if you do run into any hiccups or think of anything you didn't think of the Savo, please just get in contact and we'll make sure to sort you out. If you do have any questions that you want to ask when everyone else has left, go for it. But we'll sit on the call for another couple of minutes while people make their move. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.